Sound check, sound check, sound check. Meanwhile, back in the shop, we have this beautiful piece of wood.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Maya, and together with my husband Aladino, we are rebuilding a Cape George Cutter 36. A few episodes ago, we introduced you guys to our plan, which is to launch the boat this summer for a short summer sea trial before hauling out again and finishing the rest of the refit over winter. That means that for now, we're focusing all our efforts on the really important pieces, the mast, rigging, engine, all the stuff that's really required to put the boat in the water. But that doesn't mean that the nice to have pieces are getting ignored either. My lovely dad, Brian, many of you guys know him from the channel, has once again stepped up to the plate and has offered to help us with some of the really lovely woodworking tasks that we were looking forward to but just can't really prioritize at the moment. One of those tasks is making cabinet doors for the saloon. Now the boat did come with 3 sets of cabinet doors, but we've added another cabinet. And so Aladino made frames for that 4th cabinet, but there's no interior panel on them yet. We've decided to go with a teak and cedar look, so teak frames, cedar interior, to kind of match the rest of the boat. We have that theme going on throughout. We have cedar countertops, teak trim. The beams are this lovely cedar with a piece of laminated teak below for that color contrast, and it looks really, really nice. So my dad has agreed to take all these pieces to his workshop on the Sunshine Coast and start working on them for us, and I've equipped him with a camera. So he's actually going to film that process, and we'll see what he comes up with.
Sound check, sound check. Take 1. Take 2. Okay, take 3. Ought to be able to get something out of this, Maya.
The first thing that we had to do when planning this project was to actually source some cedar. Many of you guys might remember where this cedar came from, the countertops. It was from a friend and patron, Arnie, in the USA. A tree blew over in his yard and he offered us some of the wood. We saw it get milled. It dried out in our workshop for several years in the USA, and now it's these countertops. But when we crossed the border into Canada, we had used up most of it, but the few little pieces that were left, I had to leave with a friend in the USA because technically it wasn't allowed to cross the border without some certificates saying it's bug-free and all this stuff. And I just didn't want to run afoul of the border. So we left it there, but that meant we had to source new cedar coming up to Canada. And we found some. We found a really, really amazing piece of yellow cedar. So this yellow cedar is donated to us by friend and patron Kim. Kim lives on the Sunshine Coast where I grew up and where my parents still live, and he has family history stretching back there for generations. I'll let my dad talk a little bit more about some of the history that Kim passed along to him of this particular piece of wood.
I just had a fun conversation with Kim. Kim's a local sailor and he's become a Pacific Coast marine historian, and he first stumbled across Magic Carpet when he saw Maya's $1 boat video, the beautiful curlew. He's been a patron ever since, and when he heard that Magic Carpet had to leave a lot of their yellow cedar behind in the United States, he kindly thought of donating this piece. Kim's great-grandfather was an late 1800s British Columbia industrialist, and he owned lumber mills and had extensive timber rights, ended up becoming a member of parliament in the federal government. And his son, which was Kim's grandfather, had great backcountry experience and had worked the mills, and he developed a great appreciation for the beautiful yellow cedar that we get on the West Coast. And when he saw a particular log coming up the green chain, he would haul that board out and he would use it for his own decorative pieces and trim in his own home. So this piece was milled early 1900s by his grandfather, by Kim's grandfather, and they've now entrusted me into cutting into it and making some pieces for Magic Carpet's interior. This is a beautiful piece and a wonderful legacy. I'm going to have a lot of fun cutting into it and smelling it and appreciating the grain. So thank you very much, Kim.
So yeah, it's really cool that so many of the components going into this boat have such a story behind them. You know, this has the story, and now our cabinet doors in the saloon will also have a personal story behind them, and there's something really special about that. So a huge thank you to Kim for passing on this piece of his family's heritage to us. That really means a lot. And we hope we do it justice with how we're going to use it. My dad is a very skilled woodworker, so I'm quite confident that he will do it justice.
So the board that Kim gave us was a wide board and very long. The size of the doors I laid out on the large wide board that he gave us, and then cross-cut them to length. And then my idea was that they would be book matched. The board was too thick for one panel on one door, so I thought I would just resaw it on my bandsaw and then open it up like a book, and then the grain pattern from each one would be mirror imaged, and that would be the two panels for the doors. And that idea in the end worked out really well, but I had to resaw them on the bandsaw. And lucky I have a nice bandsaw at home, so I did that, made sure I had a nice sharp blade in there. And yellow cedar is relatively soft wood, so it cut quite nicely, and I managed to split them quite evenly and open, and had nice book match panels at the end of it. Well, a big significant portion of the job is done. The pieces are cut out and they've been resawn. Fair bit of tension in this old wood. It had been kept at equilibrium and dried for 100 years. But when you cut it, it still has a bit of tension. You can see that here. See the way accordions, each piece sort of equalized a little bit and released itself, and getting those flat again is going to be a little bit of a trick. They're already pretty thin. There's not much material to remove anymore, but the look of them, once those shine up with some planing, making them smooth, the grain starts to pop out, then you can see how all the mirror image is going to look really good in the two cabinet doors. Yeah, some of them turned out real nice. And here's the biggest one. I had to cut this one at a different direction, but that has lots of nice figure that has been mirror image. That's going to look really good. So I think I might leave these for a couple of days. Maybe I'm going to sticker them, let them air dry, get some weight on them, and let's see if some of that tension it's not moisture, that's for sure, but maybe some of that tension will release and they'll flatten out a little bit again of their own accord. So the convex side up, and sticker them in such a way with something heavy on top to push the whole thing down, and that something heavy would be my bench grinder. See how well these little boards take to it, and take it from there. Well, look at that. It's been a couple of days, and it looks like my guess was right. I think these boards have straightened themselves out, and they've gone back to their 100-year-old ways of being nice and flat. Okay, so this might be really nerding out, but I was sharpening my plane iron, and I was practicing on a piece that I was making for something else for Magic Carpet, and made these really nice shavings here. I noticed that you could actually see the list of cabinet doors in right through it. Semi-transparent it is. Most of the woodworking that I like to do is revisiting the old skills and the old techniques. Yes, I use some modern machinery. A lot of the grunt work of the power tools I greatly appreciate, but if I can grab a plane or grab a chisel and a mallet, then I'm just as happy with that. Actually happier, nice and quiet with the radio going on in the back. And there we get the board. Very nice and smooth, very nice and flat. Still a tiny little bit of tear out there. It's maybe hard to see, but I got to get the light just right on it. It's such figured wood, so you can figure there's going to be a bit of tear out. And that's when the grain reverses direction in the board, and as you're planing along nicely with the grain, all of a sudden the grain itself reverses direction, so it has to tears itself out. One way to combat that is with a small smoothing plane like this. If you make the mouth really small, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but that's a relatively small mouth right there between the sole of the plane and the blade. If you make that really small, then the sole of the plane supports the wood right up to the very point that it gets cut by the blade. And then it doesn't have a chance to rip out and tear out. And that's smoothing it off, getting rid of any of the plane marks from the previous session where I brought it down to thickness. And now it's starting to look really good. The tear out is minimal, but there's still a little bit, so I'm going to have to work that out. Oh, the quality of the wood, once I started looking in detail at it, wow, it was just absolutely beautiful. Yeah, Kim's grandfather picked it out with quite a really wonderful eye. So it was very figured and very tight grained. So I had to really tune up my planes and get them really set up well and really sharp, and managed to make a go of it. I was determined to make it nice and smooth just from the plane. And I didn't 100% achieve that, but I got very, very close, and I'm always developing my skills as well. But the wood was just absolutely beautiful to work with, and I'm hoping I did it justice. Oh, the wicker didn't come out very easily. It was glued and stapled in there, and that was part of the process that they didn't tell me about. When they told me I had this beautiful old piece of yellow cedar to cut into and make beautiful, they never told me about the hacking and chopping and grunt work of getting the old wicker out. Yeah, so. Yeah, Aladino says he never plans ahead, but I think he was looking ahead when he saw how to get that wicker out. Well, they've all finally been cleaned out. Staples played havoc on my chisel, but they're looking good. And of course the boards are going to go be fitting in here. They don't yet. I cut them slightly oversized. There's nothing square, nothing quite straight. So a lot of cutting and fitting. piece. Ah, she's looking good now. Well, here they are. All the pieces cut and put in place. I tried as best I could to keep the majority of the nice figure to the outside and low. When it was possible, I did the best I could, but I think they all look really, really good. There's the one set that Aladino's already sanded down. I've got the other sets to go yet. Oh, but they're looking pretty sharp. Well, no good deed goes unpunished. Aladino gave me some sandpaper, so here I am with my sander, getting them ready to put the pieces, the panels in.
Good morning, Aladino.
Good morning.
Rainy day.
Indeed.
However,
Still a happy day.
some sunshine has arrived in the boatyard in the form of both a person and the box in which he's carrying.
Indeed. Rainy but happy day.
Yes.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Back again. It's been a long absence. Haven't been here for quite a number of weeks.
Yeah.
A couple months almost. So, yeah, but I've been
Not without tasks.
not without tasks.
Nonetheless,
I
yeah.
have been playing at home. Yeah. And I've got your cabinet doors.
Nice.
Yes. So, this
Cool.
is one set of finished doors.
Nice.
Right there.
And once the finish goes on those, it's just going to be so
The
spectacular.
grain is
Totally.
going to show up like it'll just pop.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I love the detail now, the part that hasn't been filmed yet on the back.
Yeah. Do you want to turn them around, Dad? Because you fastened them in a really creative way.
Well, yeah, it turned out pretty nice. So I cut I used a small plane, a block plane, to cut a bevel on the back, and you can just see on this one the bevel line.
To make a bit of a recess for the rope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then put a little line in there and made a little whipping on the end of the line and glued them in place.
Super nice.
The whipping is actually dental floss. It's not particularly nautical, but it works.
Yeah, totally.
Actually, I use dental floss for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Love it.
For
Wow.
sewing, not just for dental
Yeah,
floss.
beautiful.
But that's, which ones are these? Port bow.
My port.
Your
Yeah.
port.
My port.
Gorgeous.
Nice.
Oh, that's going to be so
that
nice.
looks really cool.
Beautiful.
So what I love about this so much, and again, the really finished result is going to come with the finish. But what I love about it is we've got this whole theme going on in the boat now where we have
Teak.
Alaska yellow cedar and
Cedar.
teak.
Teak and cedar. Teak and cedar.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's all going to be matching with this theme. And also in the galley, we have the teak and cedar countertops. So it all... Oh! Okay.
They're not fragile.
Well,
Good thing.
Very nice. Awesome. Thank you.
So we have, we've got 4 sets of them. There are 3 original sets, and Aladino made one set. Here's another. This is one of my favorites in the way that the 2 panels book matched.
Yeah.
And that was the part of the idea behind the way we did it, was that we would slice it open on the ripsaw and get a really nice book matched arrangement of grain. And by the time you've sliced it and then planed it smooth, and you lose a certain degree of thickness, and sometimes you lose a certain degree of the book matching. And in some of the panels it seemed that way, but in this particular set here, the book matching came out quite nicely. I like the way
Yeah.
this one worked out.
Yeah.
well, Dad, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being
you.
such a huge part
It
of
was
this
a fun project. It was fun talking to Kim about it and learning the history of it and the legacy behind it. And this is really beautiful, nice old growth yellow cedar from the 1920s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Fabulous story.
1910s. It's a fabulous story,
Yeah.
and it was a fun bit of work to be cutting into it and planing it, smelling over 100 years of beautiful yellow cedar.
Yeah. Still smells
in my
fabulous.
workshop, and it still smells good. Yeah, you bet. Still smells good.
Indeed. Thanks to Kim also for the AYC.
Huge
What a
thanks to
gift.
Kim.
Yeah. Wow.
Under the night sky, full of stars, away from all the city lights and empty charms, searching for a place for something pure and true. It led me to the narrow path to you. I'm leaving it all for the glory of your love. I give you all I got to give until that day. Take me the cross and follow you wherever you may go. You're my all in all. I was entangled in the world, and then I found you, my treasure, precious pearl. Now every kingdom, every dream, I count the cost. Compared to you, Lord, I count them all as lost.
So these panels are going to continue to get many coats of varnish. You guys know the drill by now. I always do the several coats of the PP Extra from Epifanis for protection and build up those layers quickly and easily. And then I finish it off with the Epifanis Rub Defect Varnish for the beautiful satin look that we have going on all over the boat. I'm really grateful to my dad, both for actually making the panels and also agreeing to film them. I wasn't sure if he would enjoy the process, but it seems like he really took to it and really, you know, my dad either does something to the maximum or he does not do it at all. So of course he did it to the maximum, did sound checks and everything. It was really fun to look back at his footage that he took. I don't think he knew how to delete things off the camera, so I got to see everything that he filmed. Thanks, Dad. He's sitting behind the camera right now laughing. Yeah, it was really great, and I'm so happy with the cabinet doors that we have now. And thank you to everyone for being here, for watching the video. I hope you liked this one, a bit of a different setting, slightly different character. Yeah, just a little bit of a different episode for Magic Carpet, but I think a really fun one. It's nice to change up the pace now and then. And next week we'll be back letting you know what we were up to on the boat while Dad was doing all of that. Huge thank you to the folks whose names are now appearing on screen for really going the extra mile to make sure that Magic Carpet keeps being produced. A really, really big thank you to all of our patrons for making this all possible. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. And we do publish real-time updates on Patreon every week, so you can see, you know, some behind-the-scenes stuff, and that's all exclusive to Patreon, never published anywhere else. We're really, again, very grateful for everyone who's joined us over there. It allows us to keep the channel sponsor-free, so we don't have to accept any paid sponsorships that take away our freedom to say what we're really thinking. So it's a privilege. Thank you. I think that's all from us this week. We will see you, as always, next Friday. Bye.